Hello, and welcome to the first day of class. I'm making the syllabus video. The silly video is my nickname for it, where I'm going to go over the syllabus and what you can expect this term. My name is Sarah Sheldrick. I'm the professor for COM 451 Science Communication. I'm working from two screens here in my home office and recording this video for you. My goal here is I have the Canvas page open, so I'm in the Start Here module, and then I have the syllabus open, and I'm going over all of the things that I think you might find interesting to get an overview of what to expect this term. So I'm really excited. This is a class that I created because of my own area of expertise. I am completing my PhD in environmental science, and I have a background in storytelling, documentary filmmaking, and communication. And so I am a perfect storm of science communication. And the documentary films that I make is I work with people on water and water issues. I have travel out to Eastern Oregon and work with farmers and ranchers and municipal areas where water scarcity is a big topic along the Columbia Gorge, doing some work on studying the use of river and surface water versus groundwater. I hope you're seeing a theme that water is a big issue, that it's the main area in environmental science that I look at. And because of my background in communication, I'm a certified negotiator for water conflicts. I've also worked with UNESCO in Paris and made a series of training videos for transboundary aquifers so they could use it in some of their work they're doing. So, let's see. Um, that's about me. Hi, I can't wait to learn about you. If we get to the Start Here module, that's when you open up our Canvas site, if you're navigating there and you click onto modules, you can go and at the very top, it starts with Start Here. Basically, this is the syllabus kind of broken down into different pages to navigate. It makes it easier, like as you go through the course and you're like, you don't have to kind of look through the syllabus or try and go through one whole page for the syllabus. You could go straight to my contact information. You can go straight to the WU accessibility. And the WU accessibility statement is in there, but also remember it has a lot of other resources that I've connected in there. So if you are interested in accessing other programs on campus, I try and get that all listed out there for you. All right, let's see. A note about accessibility is that we are in an asynchronous online class. So whatever support you need, if I can help with that, I can. If the Office of Disability Services or Academic Learning Support on campus, if they can help you out, if you are new to navigating online, I don't know, after COVID, I bet we all have some different levels of expertise or tip hacks we could do to as we've had to adapt and adjust to this online experience as a much more predominant way that we're communicating, and a topic we might cover this term, but under the umbrella of STEM and communication. So if there's anything I can help with, please let me know. Even if it's just to meet an office visit and look over some assignments. If you do better in a conversation to understand assignment instead of just trying to read it, and if that feels confusing or you're not sure, I'm right here. Send me a quick message. Maybe we could jump into a Zoom room the same day you send me a message. I'm sitting in my office quite a bit. I zigzag around. I can make it to campus some days of the week with notice if you would rather meet in person. So just let me know. When you're trying to contact me, if you send me an email, when I open an email from a student, I'm expecting it to be pretty formal. I'm going to expect the format to be formal. I'm going to expect the topic and content to be formal and have a little more context than I would if I was just texting or doing a chatting things, so a digital chat. So if you choose to send me an email, please think about the formality of how you are going back and forth. If you just have a quick question, you can use the Gmail function, chat function, and I have Gmail open. I'm actually going to navigate there, right? I have Gmail open and it usually says a green dot when I'm available. And if not, just throw in a chat and I'll answer it as soon as I see it. I do check my email throughout the day, so I might be able to get back to you pretty quickly, especially if you want to jump on a call. We want to try and make that happen as soon as possible. I am not usually available from about Friday afternoon to through the weekend. By Sunday, I'm starting to peek in and see what's coming up, and I might be able to access some information, access your message on a Sunday afternoon. I could also meet in the evenings occasionally. If you are like really pressed with all day long work and classes, and you're like, actually, the only time I can meet is after 5, then make a request for that and let's see if we can make that happen. That would be great, right? If we could do that. Let's see. So because we're in a digital communication format, and we're not in person, there is a lot of nuance that's happening in communication. And I just want you to know, like, a lot of things could be misunderstood or unintended in a certain way. So when we're receiving messages or sending messages, we want to respond, not just react. So if something sends you into a reaction place, maybe just take a step back and take some deep breaths or take a walk around the block, perception check with a friend before you just move into a reactive mode. That is one of the advantages of digital communication. So let's take advantage of it, but it usually happens a lot more often in a digital format versus what if we were just in classroom, because we can clarify or see nonverbals and decipher those. So something to think about. Uh, I have a whole page on conduct and norms. I'll get into it a little bit more, but we're going to you will be assigned a team. I will assign you a team in the class, and we will get you into team meetings. And so I have norms about how to communicate in those meetings that I'd like you to follow. You can add even more norms in there or just narrow down the ones that you feel are really important when you meet with your team and I ask you to review norms. It's not like I'm asking you to review all of this whole list, but maybe highlight the ones that you want to add or think are really important. So that is an important piece of dialogue. And actually, it's a step that's often skipped in team communication. And as in science communication, whether you are the scientist or the public or someone who is a patient or someone who's working on developing policy, when you're in these situations, it's good to just have a moment to establish norms so the dialogue can have good flow, especially from science to non-science audiences. It's kind of important. All right. Other things, these are just some logistics, and I want to talk about what is this class. So let's do that now that we've talked a bit about how we are navigating the class itself. So I've developed this class as a way to think about how is the perceptions of science in the public sphere or with non-science audiences. It's also really for how do we communicate about science? I read a study that said, or, they say you shouldn't ABC, right? We make a lot of statements like this in our natural communication vernacular. We have a lot of habits around that. And we want to kind of think about how this leaves open some mm, it leaves out the complexity of things, and science often can become served up as anecdotal, and we want to move into evidential proof. What's really the difference of that? Can we start tuning our ear in a critical way to either how messages are being sent to us or how we are sending out messages. So are we receiving them or sending them? This class is for you to become more of a critically aware of the way things get misrepresented or misinformation or stereotypes or biases, implicit biases or explicit biases that we often face. So we want to kind of dive a little into that. So that means that you will be learning how to craft messages. And that's great for my communication majors. You're like, I'm not a scientist. How can I explain astrophysicists to a non-science audience when I'm the non-science audience? Well, that's what we often do in our daily conversations or when we get into roles in digital communications, social media, or if we're journalists, we have to get the information, translate it, and send, or educators, sorry, I forgot our educators out there, and then send it back out to public audience. So that if you think of yourself as a filter, like I'm going to learn about something, I'm going to filter it out and get it towards a non-science audience. This happens a lot. And so, depending on your career, you might find this really useful. Another reason why this is useful is when you're in an interdisciplinary research project or an interdisciplinary team in a workplace or a lab setting. These are important places where you have to kind of put yourself in the perception of other people, know how to listen, know how to say, I don't understand what you're saying, instead of puffing up and pretending like you know everything. And then we end up in a kind of a worse situation that's not useful for team building. So we want to kind of think about another application like that. So that means this term, what are we covering? Uh, in the last page of the syllabus, I have kind of an overview of the different topics week by week. And if you go to the module page, even though they're not open, they're grayed out, you can kind of see a little explanation of each module. And it's week by week. We're going to just kind of weave around and dive through different topics. So, of course, week one, I'll do another video. This isn't the week one tiny desk lecture. This is the week one silly video. But I will define science communication and go a little bit more in depth on week one topics. Week two, we're going to talk about storytelling in science. This is really what is the function of telling a story? You've probably all already kind of have an idea that storytelling is really important. It's really trending in fields of science or fields of rhetoric and persuasion. How are we conveying complexity or complex ideas through the vehicle of a story? That means we need to learn metaphor, we need to learn analogy, we need to understand the functioning of linguistics and language and how we are going from A to B to C. Okay, STEM, week three is STEM education. So this is science, technology, engineering, mathematics, right? These are all the different aspects of uh, science communication. Uh, and then with this, we kind of want to think about outdoor school. We want to think about kids' toys to get their curiosity activated. We want to talk about television shows that are geared just towards kids. So this is happening week three. Week four, oh, whoa, we go from kids to politics. Oh boy, that's a U-turn right there, right? But or is it? I bet we could think of a way that they're interconnected as well. The Venn diagram, where is the intersection of kids' education, STEM education, and politics? Uh, I bet you already are thinking of an idea. Hmm? I'd love to hear about it. All right, so politics and science is really about how is science translated to in how do we take science to are politicians. So politicians are representatives of the public. And we want our hope in this dream is that they are listening to evidential proof, not anecdotal evidence, to create policy towards a better future, towards good public health policies. This becomes very polarizing when we think about some of the um, paradoxes of individuality and choice and freedom that are often used that stem from being able to communicate an idea. And politicians really struggle with navigating that. So, how are journalists, how are scientists talking to into Washington or our state legislation? And that brings us to science in the courtroom. So, dual sovereignty, we're going to talk about dual sovereignty. Dual sovereignty means that we live in a federal and state legislative process. That means that we have federal policies that come out of Washington and we have state policies that come out of state legislatures. This was the way that America was formed during the forming of the Constitution so that we could have all these little separate colonies not turn into separate countries, right? Like it was going to look a lot like Europe. We'd have North Carolina as like France and England and Germany. We were going to try and make it one nation. But that meant that all these individual states wanted a little bit. You got to give me something. Right. So in this, in week 5, we're gonna kind of look at how dual sovereignty and science works. We'll probably dive into the Environmental Protection Acts and look at really some contentious issues around protecting species and why sometimes the federal law is different than the state law. So we're going to kind of look at that. And so week 4, wow, or week 5, that will be a really important week. And this is also when I talk about dual sovereignty, this means that it sounds like politics again, but this is really courtroom science and how we create legislation around different what is happening in the courtroom. How does expert testimony show up? And what is the circuits of different courts that get us to the Supreme Court? And science is really impacted by this kind of dual sovereignty and courtroom system. So we'll talk about that. There are lots of applications. If I have any criminal justice people in here, science in the courtroom looks really different when we're talking about fingerprints or blood science or DNA science in the courtroom. So that will be kind of an underlying thing as part of week 5 as well. All right. Week 6 is digital communication. That means that we're going to look at social media and really the impact of misinformation on health and issues of health and communication. Week 7 is pop culture and science. It's one of my favorite weeks. I wish the whole class was pop culture and science. I'm not going to lie to you. I am really into like Big Bang Theory and other shows that like to play around with science. How does science show up in the movies? Neil deGrasse Tyson, of course, he made a whole career out of debunking science in movies. And so there's a really kind of fun connection to pop culture and science. The more important impact is how does it diminish the credibility of science? Is science and pop culture? My doorbell just rang. My dogs just started barking. It made me startle. Uh, um, it's probably just a package, but I have to pause and check, so I'll be right back. All right, we're back. And I was talking about pop culture and science. It's been about 5 minutes since I've been here, but there was someone at the door, so I'm glad I went down. All right. Um, let's see. The next thing is week 8 is our last week of content, and that is really about Indigenous cultures. And it's really about acknowledging uh, that there has been some damage done to marginalized groups and indigenous cultures, all in the name of science. And we really want to look at the impacts of research and well-meaning intentions um, on indigenous groups and think about that. And we want to kind of look at environmental ethics and how can we fold in and collaborate traditional knowledge with scientific practices and find and where is a place where we can really celebrate both science and indigenous and traditional knowledge, and can we find a collaborative space for that, uh, and not just make it about one or the other, right? And not a hierarchy, but a true collaboration. So that's kind of what we're covering in this class. I hope that helps give you a feeling for the content, but I'm not done yet because I bet the most important thing you want to know is, what do I have to do to get out of here in one piece? So let's look at the assignments for this course. The assignments, if you go to the assignments tab in Canvas, it will populate the page by due date. And it's kind of a mishmash. Everything's kind of put all together. But at the top right corner, yeah, the top right corner, there's a little tab you can push to type, date or type. So when you put it over to type, you'll see the page reform into groups based on the different types of assignments you have to do and how they're weighted in the class. So we have 3 different groups, each of them weighted differently. There's tiny desk videos. I'm making a tiny desk video right now. You might make it with your phone. Maybe it'll be in that TikTok version style, or maybe you'll want to do it YouTube style, horizontal, but you will also be making videos and posting them on discussion boards through the term. We're going to play with metaphors and language. We're going to play with art and science, kids and science. So we'll see about some of those different discussion boards that come up. So usually you have to post a video of you sharing something. You'll follow the instructions for the assignment. I usually post another video to help give you instructions. And then you make a title for each post and you do a short written statement. Uh, and you just follow the instructions for that so that for each module. And then you have to reply to each other, about 3 replies for each of you, for each discussion board to complete the assignment. It's really great if you can make your video before the due date. It really helps flush out the conversation and makes the dialogue so much more engaging when you have more choices to listen and reply to and see the breadth of the class, because our class is going to be full of all different kinds of people. And here's where we're going to really build inclusive learning and really valuing our differences that we're bringing to the class. The next thing is that you have written reports. You have one due week 1 right away. And I have a downloadable template you can use, or you could just copy and paste out the assignment and make your own template, however you want to do it. And we have 4 of those through the term. So we have 4 tiny desks. We have 4 team meetings and 4 science reports. Uh, week 1, it looks like week 1, week 4, and week 6. And this is a pretty big assignment. It's a big written assignment. You have to be able to go through the modules, look at my videos, look at the podcast. A note about the podcast, not everyone enjoys listening to a podcast. So when I can find the transcript link, I will put it up. Uh, if I can find one that sometimes I think every now and then I find one that is not as popular, and so it's harder to find a transcript for. But if you really need some help with that, let me know. If I do find something like that, I try and make them a little bit shorter. I think like the kids one is the one I found for kids is so fun, that module about STEM education and dinosaurs for kids. It's a really fun podcast. I hope you enjoy it. Okay, so these science reports, they take quite a bit of time. Really plan it out. Don't save it to the last minute. It'll probably be really stressful if you do. The team meetings or the SciComm huddles. This is really, I already told you, I'll assign you to a team, and this is really serves as a purpose of people to talk to about the class topics. So when the assignment opens up, you'll see instructions about the team meeting, but then you'll also see a script, and it's what you're supposed to do in order in your team meeting. You need to do norms. You need to introduce yourself. You'll have an icebreaker question, like, and there's these just, and then what did you think of this assignment? What are you planning to do for the next assignment? Share the metaphor that you did for your discussion board with your team, something like this. And it just lists what you're supposed to, and then you guys all go around, round robin, figure out your order and dialogue about it. Not just my turn to talk, my turn to talk. Now it's your turn to talk. Now it's your, no, I'm looking for conversation and dialogue. This is a communication class. So demonstrate your communication style and let's learn how to ramp up the game here. Those teams are usually teams of 3 or 4. You find the time that works best for you. And the team meetings have a different late policy than a regular assignment. All of that's laid out in the syllabus, so you can look for more information about that. I do accept late work, and with team meetings, I will accept it very late if it means the team staying together, which is the most important thing. So let's make room for everybody because we all have very busy schedules and oh, we all have a lot of responsibilities in and outside of school and jobs and family. So let's make room for each other. And so that's really important. All right. So that is what you can expect as the deliverables for our class. Um, let me just make a note about when you are speaking in your tiny desk presentations or when you are doing your team meetings, the best way to not get points or to get a really low grade is to read a pre-prepared and memorized statement. When I ask you, tell me the impact of this week's information. What did you think of it? What was your favorite video? I'm expecting a natural conversational style speaking. I'm expecting you to speak what's called extemporaneously. Extemporaneous speaking is a speaking style that is not read out loud, which is manuscript style, and it is not memorized. You are not actors acting on a stage, and I have memorized lines. I don't know why a British accent came out as soon as I started talking about theater. That's funny. Uh, my stereotypes are there, I guess. I'm a big Shakespeare fan, so maybe that's why it showed up. Anyway, so it's not read, it's not memorized. And it's also doesn't mean that you haven't put some thought into it or you haven't practiced saying it. So it's not an impromptu, like, surprise, I'm going to ask you a question, get ready to answer. No, you can put some thought to it. You could even write out your answer, but please don't read those when you go into your meetings or into your discussion board posts. I am looking for a natural communication style. And this is a really important skill, especially for science communication. If non-public, non-science audiences, public audiences, think you are just reading a statement, it makes them feel even more distance from the information we're trying to get to them. The only really real reason why statements should be read is for in the field of science, I would say it would be really important if you were doing a press conference about an emergency and you had to make sure that the information was accurate down to the letter and the point and to the period, right? So, like if you've ever seen those press conferences for a wildfire or a hurricane, um, and they have someone step up to the mic for a public safety announcement, those statements are sometimes read. And that's the only one of the only places you're going to really see uh, statements read verbatim. And that is just to make sure that the information is 100% accurate. But we're in conversations in this class, so let's have a conversation and let's try out that extemporaneous. It takes a little bit more effort, a little bit more time, but I think we can do it. I think it'll be good to get that skill under your belt. All right, welcome to class. I can't wait to learn about you and meet you. Talk to you soon. Bye bye.